evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this live learning on automations. We'll be talking about this in the context of the ACP-220, which is a Confluence Cloud Admin certification. I think I got that one right, for Atlassian. And good morning to everyone who's here or wherever you happen to be. A little bit early for Rob, so you might see me shifting the time of these sessions soon to be a little bit later in my morning so I can sleep a little bit more. The coffee, however, is still very good. I'll give folks just another moment to jump on in, and then we'll dive into our next session, our second of 9, I believe, sessions we've got going of automations. And I'll drop a quick question. All right, Frank, Chad, Kyther, good to see y'all. Evelyn, welcome. And I think I saw, who else was it? One other person in here whose name I can't find for some reason. Huh. Interesting. So far, most people have not used automations in Confluence. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration. My challenge with automations is I'm just not aware of everything they can do, or rather, I don't use them as much because I'm just unaware of what they can help me do. And so what I've found to be the most useful thing is just to go in and start looking at them. So I hope for the folks who haven't yet used Confluence automations, this helps inspire you, or this helps get you over that mental hurdle of, I don't know what's possible. And that's very common in systems because we don't know everything, right? And especially for tools like this, where the automation can help do a lot of our work, it can be intimidating or challenging or scary or, one of those words, just to get started because we're unaware of what it can help us accomplish. And that's very common in systems. Melinda, welcome from North Carolina. Glad you're here. All right, enough of me blathering on about what's hard about them. Chris, welcome. I like that I'm seeing some new names in chat. Not that I don't like seeing folks who've been here a while, but it's good to see new folks jumping on in. Quick introduction. I'm Rob. If you haven't been in one of these with me before, I guess that might be my next question. Were you in the first session? My career has been in IT, mostly on the systems side, mostly with human resource teams. So I help HR teams implement, install, upgrade, manage their IT systems. But I started off on help desk, and I got a very healthy dose of the importance of a knowledge base, of a collaboration platform, that kind of thing. I started using Atlassian products in about 2013, and I just happened to have been using them, and that's good and bad. It means I learned how to use them, but it means I learned how to use them by doing. I never had formalized training, so that's why I do these sessions. I am pursuing all of these certifications to round up my own knowledge, just because the things that I learned how to do in them, I learned how to do because I had to. I had to figure out automations because I had a team using the system and I wanted to make it easier or better. Justin, good to see you. A quick reminder on interaction, please use the chat. It's over that way, over my left shoulder, or should be, depending on how you're viewing. But use it to say hi, use it to follow along in the polls that'll pop up. And right now, just curious if you've used automations in Confluence. And so far, 80% of us have not, which is good news because that's what we're here to learn about. But also use the chat to interact with each other, use it to share information, ask questions, that kind of thing. Also, please subscribe if you haven't and like the video. Super easy way to support me. I'm doing this professionally now. So this is literally my job, which is great because I really enjoy it, and also terrifying because it's my job. So please hit the like button, simplest way to support me. The other way is to check out my sponsor for this training series at Service Rocket. And I'll drop a quick thing right here. They're working on a program called Crew Members, and it's a way to find work in the Atlassian ecosystem. So if you're passionate about Atlassian products, if you're certified, follow that link to sign up, and they have projects working with clients, and from time to time they'll need to tap in an expert in a certain area. That's how you get on that list. So this is a great program if you're looking to expand what you know about Atlassian. If you have some extra time, if you're looking to fill out your schedule, definitely check out that crew member link and tell the people at Service Rocket that I sent you. Otherwise, this is the exam breakdown. We do not have to take the exam to benefit from this series, but I'll keep this slide in here just to remind us. Kythra, glad you signed up for the crew member link. I don't know how long it'll take them to get back to folks, but they're just building kind of a list of skilled individuals in case they need them. Automations take up 10% of the exam, which is honestly pretty big, at least in my mind, given everything else that is in Confluence. So it's not the biggest section. It's actually the third smallest, sorry. But still, it's a good chunk. And in my experience using Confluence, automations are not commonly used. They should be more widely used, but they're not. And again, that boils down to folks are just unaware of a lot of ways that they can operate, and they may not even be aware that automations are a thing in Confluence. And so the best advice, if you have to drop off in the next minute, talk to your team and ask them what do they do regularly that they wish they didn't have to do. So make sure that they understand they can go to you as the admin with ideas, but also make sure you're building that relationship so they can bring ideas to you on what can be automated by the system. And that is my cue to pop over here and jump into our learning path. I'm going to drop this link in the chat as well. This is Atlassian's official page on the certification. And this will have everything we need to know about it. And we're just going to pop down to the preparing for free section. No, it's in here somewhere. Oh, that's great. Invalid path. This does not exist. Okay, it came back. Whew. I haven't run into that one before. Kythra has done Jira automations. So the good news, if you've used this app, and automations is now called an app instead of a product. If you've used this app in Jira, it's very similar. The same concepts apply. The difference, of course, will be things like triggers, actions, etc. But the ideas, the underlying concepts of how they work will be the same. So if you're familiar with building out an automation in other Atlassian products, it's going to be the same here. Basically, automations let you allow the system to take action on your behalf. And they are great for anywhere you can identify something you do on a regular basis that has a very set list of steps. So automations are good when it's repeatable. Automations aren't thinking, though. So that's something to consider. It's not a human who can step back and say, hey, what's going on here? It's just going to follow the rules you give it. And that's good and that's bad. It's good because it means every time we have to do the same thing, the system can do it. It's bad because sometimes we try and build an automation, or sometimes we approach it and we realize the tool can't do the thing we need because it only follows those very specific things. Now, this is where, again, your relationship with your team is important. Sitting down and talking to them and just letting them know, hey, you can automate manual tasks. Always adding a certain label, always moving a page, always adding a restriction when something is published, always connecting it to a Jira ticket, because automations can interact with different Atlassian products and actually also different systems. So automations can touch Active Directory. They can go out and hit a webhook. They can interact with Slack. So automations aren't just limited to working within Confluence itself. Justin saying, hasn't done much automations themselves, but their counterpart who's also an admin has. That's also a great way to learn, because you can go talk to that other person and kind of pick their brain and see what they're doing. You don't even have to talk to them sometimes. You can just open the automations and see what they've been building, and then kind of like reverse engineer what they've been up to, which can also be good. Kythra, I'll see if we can do that live just to see what happens. A lot of these are fairly straightforward, ensuring processes. So one good use case for automations is your team is regularly failing to do something. You can just make the system do that for them, which is great. The biggest challenge, again, is what can you automate? This learning path we're on is the generic automation, so we'll see examples from Jira. Not the worst case. Things like subtasks, assigning work. But we can do things like apply templates. We can do things like create a page based on a work item. So if our team is using Jira, when that happens, we can use. Justin automates like crazy in Jira service management, but hasn't touched Confluence yet. That's another common challenge with systems. We get used to using it in a certain context or a certain way, and then we are just blind to that being used somewhere else, or we don't have the time to do it, that kind of thing. Now, in terms of who can build them, it's anyone in Confluence who is a global or a Confluence app admin and a space admin. The difference is a space admin's automations only work in the space they create them in. So if Kyther is a space admin for her own personal space, she can build automations in there, but they won't work in other spaces. App admins can make them global. They apply to every space or multiple spaces. And this can be beneficial if you realize that your automation can help other teams, or if you manage multiple spaces, you don't have to go build it out 6 times or however many spaces you have. You can go to your app admin and they can turn it on in multiple spaces, which is helpful. All right. How do I ask this as a poll? I'm trying to ask, like, what kind of regular things does your team use? Maybe I'll think of a better poll to ask. All right. Now, automations have 3 main pieces. Every automation absolutely must have a trigger, and this tells the system when does it start, when a page is created, when a label is added, when a Jira work item, is transitioned. So the trigger is what tells the system, hey, start this automation, and it must have it. And when we go into the system, these are green, I think. Now, every automation has one and only one trigger. So depending on what it is. The other thing it absolutely must have is an action. And this is what the automation does. So the trigger could be pages created. An action could be add a label. Okay. So you have to have one trigger and at least one action. You can have multiple actions, though. Add a label and create a work item and do something else, add a restriction. Optionally, you can have conditions. And I think of these as like a filter. So only do this thing if Rob was the creator of the page. Only take this action if a certain label is present. Chad has made 3 work items, wow, automations. Add a page for every Jira work item created, update the page when it's modified, and archive it 5 days after making it. All right. Anne uses it to make a set of project docs when you make a new space. That's a great use case. Instead of having to go manually do it, we can have a trigger when a space is created, and then an action, go copy off certain pages. There is another thing we can add, which is called a branch, and I'll talk about that more as we go. But we can have that automation run for, say, every child page of a page, and then just repeat a certain set of actions until you run out. Anytime we see these blue boxes in here, it's useful information, or it's something we really need to know because it'll show up on the exam. We can think of it as an if-then. Sarah, welcome. Good to see you. Just talking about automations. The conditions give us that ability to control when it should continue. So again, I think of it like a branching logic. Continue down this path if something's true. Otherwise, stop. Now, as we see, we're going to pop in live real quick. Kima, good to see you. We're going to have some templated automations. we can use our AI, Atlassian Intelligence, to make them, and we can manually build them. The AI is only available in Cloud Premium and Higher right now. The templates, I believe, are always there, and we can always manually build them, of course. We will go in and look at the templates. Let's just do that right now. Here we are in Confluence. Again, this is Confluence Cloud Premium, and I'm just going to open up a space. Again, to do this, I have to be the space admin, and it shows up right under Space Tools. So I can just click the three dots. This menu also appears in my space settings, right under Mission Control, so right up at the top. Now, this is a list of every automation rule that applies to this space. So right now there's one, and as the space admin, I can get some more information about them. I can search through them and filter down. So depending on how many there are, this helps me find them. And I can do things like filter by the trigger. I can also turn them off. So if I have the ability, I can disable automations. This can be useful if I don't know what this particular automation does. It can also be useful depending on my tier, because the free tier, I think, just does 100 automation runs per month. Premium does 1,000, and then it's 1,000 per user. Standard is 1,000, and then it's 1,000 per user at Premium, and then unlimited in Enterprise. So depending on my tier of cloud, I can only run automation so many times in a month. So just something to be aware of. And you'll actually get email warnings when you start to get close to that limit. So I can turn off automations I don't need. Where are my templates? Here we go. Up under Create Rule, I'll just use a template. And here I have a list of all the templated automations. This is a great starting point, and I actually come in here all the time because we'll see that they keep adding new ones, and it's good inspiration. It's a good reminder what is possible, and that helps give me ideas, jog my memory. It makes it easier for me to come up with them. It's also a way to quickly start an automation. If I don't want to have to go build out the steps to notify someone when a page is archived, I can just click on this and start with it. So similar to how we would look through page templates to see what we could do, and just for ideas, I always look through here just to see what I can do. I'm actually just going to click on this. And once we open it up, we'll get the pieces of the automation. On the left, I'm seeing the trigger, the green bit, and an action, the blue bit. So when a page is archived, send an email. And then on the right, any options around what that thing can do, what that step, or any options around what that trigger can do. So this is like the simplest possible automation. It's a trigger, it's an action. You can have up to 65 steps in an automation. I personally have not run into that limit, but it's possible. That's also, to me, suggests we need to simplify the automation just given the total number of things. But you can make these very long. A reminder, as with any tool or system, we need it to support our process. So we need to understand, what do we want the automation to do before we start building out the automation? So just some general guidance. I'm going to go back to my rules. The other way I can create them, because I have Cloud Premium, I can use artificial intelligence or Atlassian intelligence to build one out. Add the theme label anytime I make a page. So I can just kind of type out what I want this to do. This is another great way to learn how can automations work. And here we have an example of that trigger, a condition. So only continue if Robert Heen triggered it, and then add a certain label. This is another great way to learn automations, because the system will give you ideas or just show you, here's how the system thinks it should work. As with any AI tool, please always double check its work. Kind of sanity check that the AI didn't hallucinate and just make up something that doesn't do what you want. All right, another shout out to my friends at Service Rocket. Check out the QR code right under my head for more information on their crew member process. It's something actually that I'm involved in. and it's helped me round out my schedule, and it gives me great experience working in the Atlassian ecosystem, something I could not do on my own because I don't have enough expertise to land a gigantic client, and honestly, not enough time. So Service Rocket has helped make that possible for me to continue learning and working in the ecosystem. All right, rule details. Two things we need to keep in mind. The scope. And in this context, the scope means where does the rule apply? Again, as a space admin, the rules I make only apply or only work in the space that I'm in. So in the example I did earlier, I'm in the Heen Tech space. The rule that I make only works in the Heen Tech space. And this is good and bad. It's good because it means it won't go do something in the engineering space. And it's bad because I might need it to do something in the engineering space. And that's where global admins or app admins in Confluence can make a global automation. So we can change the scope to include multiple spaces or all spaces. Automations also have an owner. All this is the person who will get emails if something breaks. So the owner of an automation is, in terms of the system, gets an email alert if the automation fails for some reason. They are also the person that I, as a human, go to for information about the automation. So if I see that Sarah is the owner of an automation, I might send them a message if I'm curious about it. But it doesn't do anything else. There's also an actor, and this one's important. By default, By default, the actor is the person who creates the rule, but it's also the person whose account is used to run it, if that makes sense. So if I make an automation and it triggers, it'll show up as Rob doing a thing. Now, in Jira, this is different. In Jira, there's an automation for Jira actor, and that can be annoying because you'll just see this standard generic name show up everywhere. But in Confluence, it's the individual who created the rule. Only the actor can reassign the actor. So if I go back into automation here, and I'll just open up this one that already exists. Over on the right, I've got the owner. And again, the owner just gets emails when something breaks. And then the actor. Now, this is in the audit logs, it'll look like Rob is doing this thing, even though it is the automation. And it'll run under Rob's access. Only Rob can change it, though. So Kythra couldn't come in here and become the actor. I would have to go and change it to whoever it needs to be. So those are two important roles on it. And it kind of controls who gets information about it and then what happens. We do also have an option to change how frequently we get email notifications on errors. The default is if it starts failing after it worked, let me know, or every time it fails, or don't let me know at all. I tend to leave the default because I want to know when my automations break. I want to make sure I'm getting notified when something bad happens. And that's important if we have a lot of automations, especially if you're the app admin making them globally. You want to know quickly when, hey, something doesn't work. Now, there's a lot of different triggers. We do not need to memorize all the triggers, thankfully. We can just go in and look around. In general, it's going to be when something happens in Confluence, a manual trigger, so when someone pushes a button, or a scheduled trigger every Monday at 2 a.m. I use scheduled triggers for recurring meetings, like to spin up meeting notes, or for like a sprint review, that kind of thing. Mainly, I'm using the Confluence, what they call Confluence triggers. When something happens in Confluence, this action should occur. I less commonly use the manual triggers, if only because it's hard to show, or it's harder for people to remember where they live. Evelyn, good question. Automations are included in standard. You're limited to I think it's 1,000 automation runs. And I'm going to see if I can go find that page real quick. And next are these conditions. And there's a ton of different conditions. Again, we do not have to memorize them all. But they live under here. most commonly, I'm using like an if. So if some condition matches, do this. If some other condition matches, do some other thing. Or the page condition, which is something around the title. So if it's a meeting note, then continue. Or if it's related to a certain project, that kind of thing. What am I looking for here? Automations. Yeah, standard you get, oh wow, it's 100 rule runs per month on standard. At premium, it's 1,000 per user. So if you're on standard Confluence, you get 100 total in a month. Thank you for that link, Catherine. All right, folks, keep the questions coming. There's a lot in this section, so I'm going to just keep on kind of rolling through this. But please let me know exactly like Evelyn called out questions in there. And a quick coffee break for Rob. This box is important as well. It's reminding us that automations, it runs step by step. So if I'm looking at this automation, first the trigger goes, then the action, then the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We can reorder just by clicking and dragging. So if we have a complex automation, so lots of different steps, and we test it, and it doesn't work properly, it's easy for us to just rearrange the step order to try and fix the problem. And that's something else for automations we should always do. This probably doesn't show up on the exam, but testing things is always important. Make sure the rule does what you expect it to do, before you tell your team about this new great thing you've created. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Again, I'll talk about some actions that I use frequently. Most common that I've used is a schedule. So at a certain time, do something. Oops. And that's just my own use case of, hey, I need the same kind of page for a regular call kind of thing. There are these nifty filters, though. Hey, what are the triggers that only relate to pages or only relate to spaces? So you can filter them down. You can search. But this is also something, go take 5 minutes right after this and just look at the triggers. Just be aware of what's there and be open to new triggers being added all the time. Also, I won't dig into it too much, but we can trigger off things that happen in other systems. For example, a work item is made in Jira. Do something in Confluence. Or if we use Loom, hey, a meeting was recorded. Do something in Confluence. So there's a lot of interesting things that can happen, but we as admins just need to know what's possible, and that's more the focus here. It's going to be less specific use cases and more just what can the tool do. Now, there is an audit log for automations, which is very, very useful. Every time the automation runs, or, come here, go away. Every time the automation is run or there's a change, this audit log will put something in it. And there we go. And what we get is just the timestamp, the ID of the audit log, what rule triggered it, and what happened. Also, we get the duration. Now, the more steps there are in an automation, the longer it takes. But this is something that I've seen crop up where someone says, hey, why does this automation take so long? Or, oh, Rob, you built this automation, I did this thing, and it took forever to happen. I'll come and check the duration, and that'll help me isolate this particular automation. Took twice as long to run. What changed? What was different? What else is happening in the system? And this is a great way for me as an admin to go in and kind of understand what happened. Now, annoyingly, we don't get a lot of great information. This one is saying, hey, I can't make this page because one already has the same title. So this is actually a good audit log. But sometimes these audit logs you'll go open up. Here we go. Audit log was disabled. Okay. Sometimes these don't give us everything we need. And I'm trying to find, I don't have a good example. Sometimes that configuration change is annoying because it doesn't tell us exactly what changed. Sometimes the error will be annoying because it'll just say it failed. Like, okay, it is getting better, but this audit log is important because it lets me go through and see what has the system done to help me, even if it failed. I really needed more water. Excuse me. Quick reminder, hit the little like button down at the bottom if you like this. It helps other people find it. Also lets me know that, hey, this is useful stuff for y'all. All right, an example. What else we got? Making automation rules with the AI. Again, if you're on premium or higher for cloud, you have access to this, which is useful. Even Atlassian reminds us, double check that the rule makes sense. If only because it can just make stuff up. The biggest challenge for me, here it is prompting. What do we tell the tool to make it work? Tushar, what did you miss? You missed so much, my friend. We are now experts in Atlassian automations. Everyone here knows everything about automations, and I can't go over it again, unfortunately. So you're going to have to watch the recording. No. We're just talking about automations and the basic building blocks. You know, triggers, actions, conditions, the audit log. And now we're talking about using AI, Atlassian intelligence, to build out automation rules. This, if you have access to it, is a great tool. Again, it helps us explore and learn what automations can do. My challenge is the prompt. And even in the example I gave, I had a pretty short one. When this happens, do that. But the prompt we give it, and just like any AI tool, what we tell it has a massive impact on what it can do. So really, when I'm building these automations in here, we've achieved Atlassian apotheosis. And here, let's just do a poll because Carther used a big word. What does apotheosis mean? I only know the name that term due to a video game. I've never used it in actual speech. So Kaithra, I'm glad you were able to blend it in here. As with any AI tool, it's all about the prompt. It's like giving it a trigger and then an action. So when something happens, I need you to do blank. When I make a new database, make a page based on some specific template. Again, honestly, the AI for me has been very helpful in breaking me out of my own habits and helping me understand how this works a little better, because it does some of the work and it has access to all the triggers and everything. So it just helps me explore what's going on. Honestly, I haven't used it for very complex use cases yet. I use it more to get things started, and then I will go through and tweak it, or I'll add additional conditions. You'll notice if we go between these pieces, let me get rid of that real quick. Beep. I can insert new components, new pieces of the automation in between steps. Excuse me. Using the AI again. I don't know why there's so much, I know why there's so much about using the AI, but it's all kind of the same idea. You just go and you type in, what do I need you to do? And the system figures it out. Okay. Apotheosis, the end state of something. Actually, I should look up what the actual definition of that term is. The highest point in the development of something. So maybe not necessarily the end state, but the highest point. Okay. And about half of us guessed that, which is pretty good. kind of a leading question. Do you use smart values? And I'm asking this because I didn't know what the heck they were when I first saw them. And I think I first saw them looking around in an automation someone else had made, and they confused the hell out of me. Basically, they're variables we can reference in automations. They show up in other places in Atlassian, but they allow us to... Maybe you just need to be warm, Kythra. I don't know. Smart values allow us to reference... I guess is a good way to put it. It's a placeholder for information. So I can reference the title of a page, or I could reference the author of a page. On a Jira work item, I could reference a certain field. It's basically an object variable, Frank. It's important to know the term, though, and to know what they look like, because you will see these when you use Atlassian products, and you're going to need to look them up. So they're called smart values, but it's a variable we can use within an automation or other areas. They are always notated with the double brackets. So like now is a smart value that just returns the current time, like the current date time, but it's always double bracket, now, close double bracket. They're also notated, oh, here we go, some examples, good. Now is the current time, here we go. They're also notated in descending order of size of thing. So user.email address, get me the email address of the user. This one is saying get 3 days from now and make it business days. Okay. References the current time and adds 3 business days. That makes sense. Smart values are... Unless you're using them all the time and like it's your job to know them, don't spend too much time trying to memorize them. It's more about understanding the concept of how they work and how they operate. Rodney, what does Gandalf say? A wizard is never late. He arrives exactly when he means to. And so far, everyone is using smart values. I love that. Again, they were something that I kind of tripped over or I accidented my way into. It's more important. I'll put this entire link. This is Atlassian's reference for it. But we can see there's a lot about date time, about mathematical expressions, conditional logic, users, text fields, lists. I'll just open one of these at random. But we can see, dozens, if not hundreds. Our role as an admin, and especially on this, to sit this exam, isn't to memorize these. It's to understand how they work, though. And again, it should say work item here. Big thing to small thing. So it's go into the work item, get me the summary, and then it ends with this. Go into the page, get the owner. Go into the page, get the owner, get their email. So once you understand the pattern, they're easier to read and utilize and understand. Oh, sorry, Rodney. A lizard is never late. He arrives exactly when he means to. Is that better? Now, in our automations, these smart values appear in different places. Go away. I'm trying to find quickly off the top of my head. Let's see. Here we go. So I have when a database is made, publish a page. Great. The page title, you'll see this smart value icon, which is an open-close brace. I can then use smart values to make a dynamic title. So I don't have to hard code in. I don't have to type in the name of the title and then change it later. I might instead say, hey, whoever initiated this automation, whoever kicked it off, go get me their display name. Oop. And I can copy that. So now it'll be whoever initiated it, give me their name and then meeting notes or whatever I want. It gives us a lot of flexibility. So just understanding that smart values are a thing, that allow me to have variable information show up. It's also great for building things like content or sending notifications or emails. But for me, the challenge with smart values was similar to the just what can they do? Why do I care? When would I use them? In the same way, hey, automations are a thing and they're big and scary because that's a coding thing. I don't know how they work. So similar to how we looked at templates, take a look at that link that I put and just start to become comfortable looking at the notation, understanding how they operate. Also, there's a helicopter over my house. I don't know if I should be concerned or not. It's floating around. Not necessarily, Justin. Yeah, I knew we were going to that. Now that rule would apply whoever created the rule. Hang on, let me go back to my automations. Come here. By default, whoever created the rule is the owner. So whoever built it owns it. It doesn't have the same rhyme scheme, though. Now, I've mentioned the scope of automations, and one thing just to be aware of is the scope. So that means this automation that I have only runs in this particular space. As a app admin, though, I can go into my Confluence admin panel and look for automation. And we'll see a different list of automations. And this is because these automations, as the app admin, I see everything. I see all the people who could have created automations or all the ones that run. And then I can see, for example, this one runs everywhere. And then as that app admin, I can open it up and I can change the scope. Just one space, multiple spaces, or every space. Tushar has a question. Is there a trigger or a way to create retrospectives after the end of a sprint? Not within Confluence. I'm going to go to automation and just quickly make one. Return to rules. Come here. Create rule from scratch. When we think of automations, it's the trigger is what happens in the system it starts in. Sprints don't exist in Confluence. They exist in Jira. So from Jira, I have a trigger around sprints. And in Jira, I can have an automation run or trigger when the sprint ends, and then I can create a page in Confluence. There is probably a way to do this either with a marketplace app or through a more advanced trigger like a webhook. But my Jira triggers at this point are just around project created and work item created. But that's a good question, Tushar, and that's a good use case. So that would be a good instance of I go talk to my Jira admins and say, hey, here's what I need to do. Here's what my team needs to be successful. All right. There is a part or a component of an automation we haven't really covered yet, and that is a branch. So, I use the term branching logic. This is a little bit different. This means the branch will run for every sub page, and that's usually how I think about it. So if I have a parent with multiple child content, the branch allows the automation to run against each of those children. So I can have an automation rule that triggers every Monday morning at 2 a.m. and looks at a parent page and then does something to the children repeatedly. And I think they added a new, they have advanced branching using our smart values and perform actions. We have related work items or related, children or parent information, and then simultaneous branching. Usually with branching, it runs sequentially, but we can have the branches all execute at the same time. I don't personally have a good use case. I'm quickly going to slam one of these together. What I'm looking for, scheduled. Beep. Yep, that's fine. Just pick a time. And then I've got these branches. These are the purple and pink ones. These are optional, but again, here I might say for each inactive page, and that's actually, I think, a newer branch, for each page owned by a deactivated account, take some action. So in the Confluence context, I might have this automation run and help me identify pages where there's no active owner, or do something. Branch and logic don't belong in the same sentence. Yeah, in this, and that's why I said branching logic earlier. That's how I tend to think of a branch. In this context, though, it's more running the automation against something repeatedly or something within the system. Again, child page is the easiest example. So this can also help us save a little bit on our automation runs if we have limited capacity. Instead of triggering for every individual page, we have it trigger once, and then the branch runs against every deactivated page, or runs against every every time the author is Rob, or something like that. The use cases here, or the thing to be aware of with the branching, is just, okay, it can run against multiple things that all share something in common. The thing they share is the author. The thing they share is a deactivated owner. The thing they share is a parent. That kind of thing. I haven't played too much with the advanced components. Delays, branching at the same time. Ooh, wow. That's fancy. I'll have to look more into what the parallel branching does. And just a note here, the advanced components are available only in Premium and Cloud Enterprise. So this advanced automation, or this advanced branch, yep, get out of here. There we go. The biggest, for me, the most obvious use case is the inactive pages, and then the deactivated owners. There is a limit. It can only run on up to 1,000 of these things. That's new. Sorry. This advanced component thing is new to automations in general, Justin. Yeah, so far all the features and automations are going to be similar between Jira and Confluence. The difference will be the specific triggers or the specific actions that are possible. But the automation app will look and feel almost identical between systems. Of course, what they do differs just because Confluence and Jira are different things, different systems. Now, this is important for us to understand. The automations run in parallel. So when the branching occurs, it's looking at every page, not at once. However, I can't have the automation rule reference a change it made in the branch somewhere else. So as the branch is running, I can't have it change what it's doing based on the actions it takes, if that makes sense. There are some tricks with like delays and like resampling pages, but in general, I want the automation to just run and be done. It's not going to reference its own work and adjust what it's doing. Again, it's a very mechanical process. It's not like a human being able to stop and back up and change what's going on. And that's just a reminder as we're considering automations, excuse me, if it requires a lot of thought, if it requires a lot of back and forth, it may or may not be a good candidate for automation. All right, folks, quick reminder, hit the like button if you like the stream so far for any reason. Maybe it's, my dashing good looks, or maybe it's the content, I don't know. But please hit the thumbs up and take a minute to check out Service Rocket's crew member program. They are sponsoring this and making it possible for me to continue doing this. So take just a minute and go pop over to their website and see if it's something that you find interesting or useful. And I'll try and find that real quick. There we go. Beep. Service Rocket. Right there. Okay. Branching for me it's still a concept I struggle with, I'll be honest. So these examples are useful. Running against all stories that need a parent. Again, any time I have multiple things that meet a similar criteria, a branch could be a good thing to add. In this case, everything that has a bug should have a security bug label so we can find it more easily. Or identifying those pages that are missing an owner, that are missing, a parent. And a reminder, this learning paths all have these quizzes. Definitely go take the quizzes. Even if you get it right, it gives you this justification for the answers. Very useful in understanding how and why the system works. All right, managing automation rules. So again, the mechanics of the automations are pretty straightforward. It's got a trigger, when does it run? It's got an action, what does it do? And it's got conditions, when should it continue? We as admins, though, need to be a little bit more a galaxy brain, I think is the term about this. Doing things like testing them out. I will frequently build an automation and scope it just to my own personal space, and then run it a couple times to see what happens. And I just want to make sure it does what's going on. And I'll go through kind of like step by step. Did it do these 27 things that I want the automation to do, or whatever it is? There is a special action called a log. And this is really, really useful. And they even call it out, especially with smart values. But logging is like a generic concept where it's going to record some action. So it's just an action called log action. And what it will do is when the automation runs, it's going to record this in the audit log. So it's going to give me some indication of where the automation got to, but also allow me to record what the automation was seeing or doing at that time. So this is very useful when I'm testing out a complex automation and I can't quite track what's going on. The log action helps me understand what's happening. So it's a very useful thing to put in. And then once I figure out, oh, the automation works, I might remove the log action, or I might leave it in because it can be useful over time to see what's going on in that audit log. Taking time to dig through the audit log is also very, very useful. I'm going to go to rules. Okay, go away. Audit log. Boo, boo, boo. Here we go. This one has some errors. Oh, that's fun. It's telling me it was scheduled to run at a certain point, and this happened. For me, the audit log, like I mentioned before, is sometimes too vague and sometimes doesn't have as much as I need. But it's a very good indication of what's going on in the system and lets me then go into the automation and find the publish new page step and make some kind of change to it. What do I have to modify in this automation? So just exploring the audit log is a very good practice for us to be in, to go in and poke around. The other thing as app admins is just being aware of who owns the automations. If I go into my rules, I can see the owner right here, and that will be the person that I go to talk to. Hey, Rob, you have this automation, apply label to meeting notes. Do you still need it? I notice it's turned off. Can we delete it? What can you tell me about why it exists? Or is there someone else who should be the owner? Because we can go in and modify this. Frank's suggesting the audit log also lets you figure out, has the automation been triggered in a while? If not, maybe you can get rid of it. We do want to clean it up because, one, we're limited. Depending on our license, we have a limit to the number of times they can run. But also, this gets long. Over time, these build up. And especially in a system like Confluence where, it's not as, what's the term I'm looking for here? Most companies won't place as much importance on Confluence as other more business critical systems. So you'll end up with dozens, if not hundreds of automations, many of which might be turned off. So we as admins should be going in and stripping out ones we don't need. And we can just go to actions and delete ones we don't want. We can also export them, and this will get you a JSON file. Only app admins can upload them, though. So one way to share automations between instances is to download. It's also a way to back them up. So as Frank is suggesting, hey, we can download them, archive off the JSON, and then upload it again at some point in the future. I went the wrong way. All right, folks, we're about out of time. That was a lot. There's a ton to know about automations. Again, it is its own separate app. It exists in Jira as well, so there's a ton within them. Things to keep in mind are the trigger, condition, action sequence. You have to have a trigger, only one, and you have to have an action, at least one. You can have multiple actions. Conditions are optional, but it's about working with your team to figure out, hey, what do we need to automate, or what can we automate so we as humans don't have to do it? In terms of the exam, it's understanding those generic things and then looking at example automations to figure out what happened. So please get hands-on. Debbie's saying we only have 2 total Confluence automations. Again, that's not uncommon because the top of most people's mind is not, what can I automate in Confluence? They're going into Confluence to build content or do something. But we as admins need to bring that ability and knowledge to say, hey, we can automate this. We can take away the need to do all this manual stuff, and you can just make it the system can just do it. All right, our next session will be next Monday. I'm going to move the time up a little, and this is for my own sanity. Because I'm doing this as my job, I don't have to wake up as early anymore, so I'm not going to. So be on the lookout for the next session at 6:30 in the morning, not 6. And this is Pacific time, so a half hour later. Of course, the recording will be there, but this is more to fit my lifestyle. Frank, good to see you, my friend. Get out of here. And I'll be looking for more content around those time slots. But that'll be our next session. Between now and then, please go get hands-on. Please review the recording. Please keep engaging with it, especially with automations, because there is so much there and because of the impact they can have. We definitely want to spend more time in it. And one more shout out to my friends over at Service Rocket. Use that QR code to check out the crew member program, and I'll drop the link in here again. And it's a way, to get more experience in the Atlassian ecosystem, to get a little bit of a side gig, depending on what Service Rocket needs. So if you're certified, hit that link, let them know I sent you, and there you go. Chad, thank you so much, my friend. Always good to see you. Chad's a channel member. He's a coffee sponsor. I really appreciate that. Otherwise, please hit that like button before you all go, and have a great week wherever you happen to be. And thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you learning about automations, and I'll see you next Monday at the latest. Rodney. Hey, I don't know. Go check out the link. Maybe you are my friend. All right, folks. I'll leave the chat open for a minute, but thank you all for coming here, and I will see you all again, hopefully, very soon.